Good thing I shave.
Phil, man, I think it's yeah, good. You look handsome.
Maybe I'll
It's the
dress
same.
up for the next one. I didn't want to look all hairy and look like I'm dying. I didn't get a chance to finish up. Maybe I was going to put a suit and tie on. I want people to think I'm drunk when the camera shakes.
No.
So the Germans wanted to go back home, so they settled them on the west coast of the Mississippi. And the Germans not getting any new immigrants of Germanic type began to mingle with the French, and they married the French women. So the Germans were really began to be absorbed into the French culture. So that ended up being mostly their descendants ended up speaking French. Now, what happened then, New Orleans itself basically remained French. And with that, you had the original slaves with New Orleans weren't really slaves. They came in working, they were owned by the French government. And they lived and worked in the military barracks that was set aside for them. Now, eventually, slaves were brought into New Orleans, and they were brought from the west coast of Africa. And I tracked one of my descendants to a place called Axum. Now, this was documented in court testimony taken in about 1814 in a deposition given by another slave woman. And she testified that she knew my great-great-great-grandmother from the 1700s by living in the upper suburbs of New Orleans. And of course, the upper suburb meant anything on the other side of Canal Street, which of course then was not a canal street, but it was in the area above what is now Canal Street. And that's the information on this ancestor. Now, as I began to dig further and learn that this ancestor had a daughter by what is unknown to me, a person unknown to me is in about 1796. And this woman was owned by a free woman of color named Pelagie Dauphine. Pelagie had several people of color that she owned, and she desired their release to be free in about 1814. And of course, this was at the time of her death. and she allowed one of my ancestors $900. She willed her, and with this money, my ancestor bought her mother's freedom, and